I wanted to focus on how we're supposed to relate to Olam Haba. And I think that there's a little bit of uncertainty as to how we're meant to relate to it, perhaps because the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos tells us that we're not supposed to serve Hashem to receive reward. And that makes it seem as though that if we're doing anything for Olam Haba, then we're perhaps serving in order to receive reward. And it's not that's not correct. And I think it's important to clarify it. The the Mesilas Yesharim tells us that a person is supposed to figure out why he's here. That's the number one requirement in a person's growth, is to figure out why he's here and what he's supposed to do with the time and the energy that he's here. And he says the why we're here is to have a connection, to have dveikus, to have a connection with Hashem. And the place where that connection plays itself out most fully is in Olam Haba. I happen to have come across this Rabbeinu Bachya who says it in a way that maybe we didn't necessarily think about it until now. If you think about setting your table, so when you're setting your table and you are putting out plates and silverware, cups, so nobody would imagine that you're doing those things because that is the goal, because the goal is to have plates and silverware and cups, or to have them on the table. Nobody would get fooled into thinking that that's the goal. The goal is a meal. The goal might be serving a meal or serving welcoming guests, but it would be surprising if anybody thought of the putting the silverware and the plates and the napkins as being the goal. That is a means to an obvious goal, which is a meal. So the Rabbeinu Bachya points out that is true in everything in our world has such an end, and that everything else is a means towards that end. So, for example, the human being is the tachlit, or the intent of all of the creation. And that's why we view the creation of everything, Hashem views the creation of everything as a preparation for the arrival of and the creation of man. And the same thing is true regarding the weekdays, where all of the weekdays are meant to be a preparation for the arrival of Shabbos. Now, people tend to forget that. They start thinking that the work that they're doing is for the sake of the weekday, and they forget that it's really in order to arrive at Shabbos. Meaning it's Shabbos is the arrival. Shabbos is what it's for. And you can imagine that if somebody did something, an activity that would not bring any further enhancement of Shabbos, then knowing that they are preparing for Shabbos would allow them to make different decisions during the week. So Rabbeinu Bachya says that this is really what Olam Haba is about. Olam Haba is the arrival of everything that we do in Olam Hazeh. And the fact that we tend to lose track of that causes people to do things in Olam Hazeh that maybe might enhance their Olam Hazeh, but doesn't move them forward in Olam Haba. So what Rabbeinu Bachya is really giving us is a little bit of a deeper insight into what the Mesilas Yesharim means when he says that the time and the place for this dveikus is Olam Haba. If a person puts an umbrella into their suitcase because they're traveling to a place where there is expected to be rain, and now when they get to that place, they have an umbrella. They put a suit in. So when they get there, they have a suit to wear. If you would say to them, "Oh, you're just doing that for the reward," you'd say, "This is not about the reward. This is about preparing for reality. This is about viewing this time, viewing this moment in terms of the coming, what's coming next." So I'm packing my suitcase. And if you pack your suitcase, that's not called I'm only serving in order to get reward. I am doing things because I have a consciousness of what this is all leading towards. You say, well, then how come it's not more central? How come there aren't a million psukim that just talk all about Olam Haba? And the answer really lies at the core of the fact that the Mesilas Yesharim goes on to say that the only place where you can pack and prepare for Olam Haba is Olam Hazeh. The only time, the only place, it's the only way. It is all done here. Those societies, and we are so confronted with those who only think about their eternity, they think about their 70 virgins or whatever it is that's coming, and they've completely neglected to see that the world that they're living in is meant to build towards that. And that's why all they're interested in doing is dying. That's what happens to a society that loses track of what Olam Hazeh is for. And we're looking at it every day. We're looking at people who don't think twice about murder, about bloodshed, killing each other, killing others. They don't think about it for a moment because their whole world is only oriented towards some sort of world to come. And so to make sure that we are firmly grounded in the understanding that the only place to pack anything is in this world, and that everything that you pack, everything, will be utilized in the world to come. Everything you pack, every word of Torah, every moment of thinking of that which is transcendent, of that which is more than just basic living, any moment of caring, any moment where you rise above the rough and tumble of the world, every moment will be utilized. It will have its place in eternity. It will be in your suitcase. even the tiniest things that we would basically like, that's not significant. That's a nothing. What did I do? It was a no big deal. All of that is going to help because all of it is going to come out of our suitcase in the world to come. So the idea that we need to bring that calculation, we bring that chishuv, that calculation, is not because we are only thinking about Olam Haba. It's because everything is heading towards Olam Haba. And so it's not a question of I'm only serving in order to get reward. I'm not serving in order to get reward. I'm putting things in the suitcase so that they will be available in the world of eternity. That's not called serving for the sake of reward. That's called having good common sense. You say, well, why doesn't everybody do that? And the answer is because clarifying that that is where everything is leading towards is not simple or obvious. There's a tremendous pull in the world to say, this is it, this is everything, whatever you see, that's what you get, and there is nothing beyond it. That pull is a very powerful pull that all of us at times have to struggle with. But that doesn't change the fact. That doesn't change the reality, and that's why the Mesilas Yesharim opens with this, laying out the groundwork. You need to work out the math of why I'm here and where I'm heading. And every bit of struggle, every bit of difficulty is going to accrue. It goes into the suitcase, and it's going to help. It's going to enhance. It's going to be part of my world of eternity. And so when sometimes you hear people making very grand calculations, and they've got things figured out amazingly because they've got a good handle on things and they're able to figure things out, except they do not include in their calculation anything about eternity. And there is nothing that changes a calculation more than the awareness of eternity. That is, we would say, what's the one thing that would really change my life very significantly? What's the one thing, if I could only make one change in my life, what's the one change that would make the biggest difference in my life? The answer would for sure be if I could internalize the fact that this world is the preparation for eternity, and eternity carries with it the maximum connection to Hashem. Well, that alone would change, perhaps even if I couldn't make any of the other changes that I might ideally make in the course of my life. That one change would set everything into the right trajectory. So I just wanted to leave with that clarification of what it is that Olam Haba is about. I can't tell you what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, but I do know what the Mesilas Yesharim has told us, and what the Rabbeinu Bachi is saying. Think of it as setting the table. You're setting the table. You're doing things in this world. You're active. You're involved. But that's not the goal. The goal is the meal that's going to be served after. Chazal use the expression of prosdor and traklin. They use the expression of the anteroom and the main ballroom. So we can't be talking all the time about Olam Haba, because then we would start doing silly things with our lives in Olam Hazeh. But we have to always be thinking about Olam Haba, so that we're using Olam Hazeh intelligently and with an informed way.